If you've ever met someone who made you feel like prey, if you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling drained, confused, wondering if you were the problem, if someone has ever looked you dead in the eye, lied to your face, and you knew they were lying but couldn't prove it, if you've ever said the words something is off about them, but nobody else could see it, if you've been called paranoid, dramatic, or oversensitive for not trusting someone who everyone else adores, you are not imagining it. You are not broken. You are not crazy. Psychology says you are a detector. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Identify the predator in the room. And right now you're confused because society uses two words interchangeably that describe two completely different species of human. Psychopath, sociopath. The world treats them like synonyms. They are not. One was born without a conscience. The other had theirs destroyed. One hunts with a scalpel. The other hunts with a hammer. And the reason you've been played, manipulated, or scarred is because nobody taught you how to tell them apart. Until now, here's what they don't tell you. The mental health industry, the therapists, the self-help gurus, the toxic positivity crowd, they want you to believe everyone is redeemable, that everyone is just hurt people hurting people, that if you just set boundaries, communicate better, love harder, you can fix anyone. That is a lie designed to keep you in the kill zone. Because the moment you understand the difference between a psychopath and a sociopath, you become dangerous to them. You stop giving second chances to people who are studying you like a textbook. You stop excusing behavior that your gut has been screaming about for months. The world wants you confused. Confusion keeps you compliant. Here's the truth they're hiding. Psychopaths and sociopaths are not sick. They are not struggling with empathy. They are apex predators in human skin, and they rely on one thing to survive: your inability to tell them apart. A psychopath is a born hunter. Their brain formed differently in the womb. The part of your brain that feels guilt, remorse, fear, theirs never wired correctly. They don't feel it. They study it in you. They watch you cry and take notes. They are natural-born actors, and you are their stage. A sociopath is a made monster. They had a conscience once, but trauma, abuse, or neglect shattered it. What's left is raw survival instinct, rage, and chaos. They don't plan. They explode. They don't blend in. They dominate. And here's why this matters to you. You've been treating them the same. You've been using the same strategies against two completely different threats. That's like bringing a knife to a gunfight and wondering why you keep losing. I'm going to show you the 5 signs that separate them, the 5 behavioral fingerprints that expose which predator you're dealing with. And once you see it, you will never unsee it. You will never be played the same way again. Let's talk about the amygdala. Not all of it. Just one thing, one discovery that changes everything. Your amygdala is the part of your brain responsible for fear, empathy, and emotional memory. When you see someone suffering, your amygdala fires. When you imagine hurting someone, your amygdala stops you. It's your internal alarm system. Your conscience is wired directly into it. Now here's the discovery. In 2011, a neuroscientist named Kent Keel scanned the brains of 296 inmates. He wasn't looking for intelligence. He wasn't looking for trauma. He was looking at the structure of their brains, and what he found in psychopaths was terrifying. Their amygdala was 18 to 20% smaller than normal. Let me say that again. 1/5 of the hardware responsible for guilt, fear, and empathy was just missing. Imagine your smoke detector. Now imagine it's missing the battery, the sensor, and the alarm. It's still mounted on the ceiling. It still looks like a smoke detector, but when the house is on fire, silence. That's a psychopath's amygdala. They are not choosing to be cold. They are not suppressing their emotions. The biological mechanism that generates remorse does not exist at full capacity. When you cry in front of them, their brain doesn't register distress. It registers data. This tone of voice means sadness. This facial expression means I should say I'm sorry now. They are fluent in empathy. They are not native speakers. And here's the kicker. This doesn't make them stupid. It makes them efficient. While you're drowning in guilt over a harsh text message, they're 3 steps ahead, calculating their next move with zero emotional interference. Sociopaths? Different wiring entirely. Their amygdala works. It's just been overridden by trauma. Think of it like a car alarm that's been going off so long. The owner ripped out the wiring. The hardware is there. The response is destroyed. A sociopath can feel fear and rage. They feel it constantly. But empathy? That got burned out in childhood. Now they operate on pure fight or flight. They don't plan crimes. They react violently. They don't manipulate with precision. They manipulate with chaos. The verdict? When you say something felt off about that person, your amygdala was doing its job. It detected the missing signal. The lack of reciprocal empathy, the performance where connection should be. You were right. You've always been right. Let me tell you about two people who understood predators better than anyone alive. Not because they studied them, because they survived them. The first is Ted Bundy's final interviewer. His name was Dr. Stay, James Dobson. And in 1989, the night before Bundy's execution, he sat across from one of history's most prolific psychopaths and asked him one question: how did you choose your victims? Bundy didn't hesitate. He said, I'd walk through a crowd and I could feel who was available. Not vulnerable. Available. Dobson spent decades after that interview trying to warn people, but nobody wanted to listen, because what Bundy described wasn't a supernatural gift. It was pattern recognition. Bundy could spot in seconds who had weak boundaries, who was people-pleasing, who would ignore their gut to be polite. He did exactly what you do when you walk into a room and instantly know who feels dangerous. Except he used it to hunt. You use it to survive. Dobson became obsessed with teaching people the difference between charm and connection. He said psychopaths don't seduce you with love. They seduce you with mirror work. They reflect back exactly what you want to see. They study your insecurities in real time and become the solution. And here's what broke him. He realized that the same skill that made Bundy a monster, hyper-awareness of social cues, was the same skill that could save you. Dobson wasn't teaching people to be psychopaths. He was teaching them to think like one for 30 seconds, to stop trusting the performance, to clock the inconsistencies, to notice when someone's eyes don't match their smile, that hypervigilance you feel, that thing that makes you pause the conversation in your head and think, wait, did they just contradict themselves? That's not anxiety. That's threat detection. Dobson's flaw, his inability to unsee the predator in the room, became his life's work. He used the same pattern recognition Bundy weaponized, and he turned it into a shield. You are doing the same thing. The second person is Anna Sorokin. You know her as Anna Delvey, the fake German heiress who scammed New York's elite out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. But here's what the Netflix show didn't tell you. Anna wasn't a psychopath. She was a sociopath. And the difference is why she got caught. Psychopaths plan for years. They build airtight identities. They have escape routes. They ghost before the house of cards falls. She improvised. She walked into 5-star hotels with a $2,000 checking account and demanded penthouses. She brought people to restaurants she couldn't afford and then threw tantrums when her card declined. Tantrums so explosive that other people paid her bill out of embarrassment. She didn't charm people. She bulldozed them. And the wildest part? It worked. For years. Because sociopaths have one weapon psychopaths don't. Audacity. They don't ask permission. They don't ease you in. They walk into your life like they own it. And your brain scrambles to make sense of the confidence. If she's this bold, she must be telling the truth. But here's where Anna's story connects to you. You've met an Anna. You've met someone who lied so confidently that you doubted your own memory. Someone who exploded in anger when questioned, and you apologized to them. Someone who created chaos so loud that you couldn't hear your own instincts. Anna's flaw, her inability to stay calm, to plan long-term, to hide, is what got her caught. And that same flaw is what exposes every sociopath you'll ever meet. Because while psychopaths are patient, sociopaths are volatile. They can't hold the mask for long. They burn out. They rage, quit. They leave a trail of destroyed relationships, unpaid debts, and people who say, I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't prove it. You've been collecting those inconsistencies, those little moments where their story didn't add up, where their anger felt disproportionate, where they love-bombed you on Monday and ghosted you by Thursday. That's not you being paranoid. That's you tracking the pattern. Here's the lesson. Dobson's hyper-awareness saved lives. Anna's chaos exposed her. Your ability to sense the psychopath's cold calculation? That's Dobson's gift. Your ability to spot the sociopath's emotional whiplash? That's Anna's tell. The same instinct that makes you feel crazy in the moment is the only thing that will keep you safe. Stop apologizing for it. Do you notice when someone is too perfect in the first conversation? When they say exactly what you need to hear. Mirror your energy flawlessly, laugh at the exact right moments, and somehow make you feel like the most fascinating person alive within minutes of meeting you? And then, do you feel guilty for not trusting it? This isn't paranoia. This is baseline discrepancy detection. Your brain is hardwired to notice when social behavior doesn't match the timeline. Real connection builds gradually. Real trust takes time. When someone skips all the stages and lands at intimacy in one conversation, your nervous system flags it. Here's the difference. A psychopath charms instantly and consistently. Every interaction feels polished, smooth. They never stumble over their words. They never have an off day. They are performing at 100% every single time because they are always performing. They've studied human connection like a language. They know that mirroring builds rapport. They know that vulnerability creates trust, so they manufacture it. They'll tell you a tragic backstory in the first hour, not because they trust you, but because they need you to trust them. A sociopath charms inconsistently. One day, they're your soulmate. The next day, they barely acknowledge you. Their charisma is reactive, not strategic. They turn it on when they need something, and the second they have it, the mask drops. This allows you to separate performance from presence. If someone is charming 100% of the time with zero emotional variation, psychopath. If someone oscillates between obsession and indifference, sociopath. Both are dangerous. But now you know which danger you're dealing with. Do you remember the exact moment someone's face changed? When you said something completely harmless, asked a simple question, set a boundary, said no to a small request, and their expression shifted. Not anger, not frustration, something colder, or something explosive. And then later, they convinced you were the problem? This isn't you being oversensitive. This is threat response mapping. You are cataloging how someone reacts when they don't get their way, and that reaction tells you everything. Here's the pattern. A psychopath stays cold under pressure. You will never see them lose control. When you challenge them, their voice gets quieter. Their face goes blank. They might smile, but their eyes? Empty. They don't yell. They don't throw things. They recalibrate. They step back, analyze what went wrong in their strategy, and approach you from a different angle. They might punish you later, through silent treatment, triangulation, subtle sabotage, but they will never explode in the moment, because rage is inefficient, and psychopaths do not tolerate inefficiency. A sociopath explodes. They go from 0 to 100 in seconds. They scream. They slam doors. They say unforgivable things and then hours later act like nothing happened. Their rage is uncontained because their emotional regulation was destroyed in childhood. They're not calculating the best move. They're reacting to a perceived threat with pure survival aggression. This allows you to predict their next move. If someone goes cold and silent when you set a boundary, they're planning retaliation. Protect yourself strategically. If someone explodes and burns the bridge in real time, let them. They just showed you exactly who they are. Do you notice when someone's story is too detailed? When they explain where they were, who they were with, what time they left, what they ate, without you even asking? Or do you notice when someone's excuse makes no sense but they double down on it anyway? This isn't you being suspicious. This is narrative coherence tracking. Your brain is comparing the complexity of their story against the stakes of the situation, and when those two things don't match, it sends up a flare. Here's how planning reveals the predator. A psychopath orchestrates. They plan everything. They've thought through your questions before you ask them. They've built alibis for scenarios that haven't happened yet. When you catch them in a lie, they don't panic. They've already prepared 3 backup explanations. They're always 5 moves ahead. They've war-gamed the relationship. They know when to love bomb you, when to withdraw, when to create jealousy, when to apologize. Nothing is spontaneous. If you feel like you're being managed, you are. A sociopath improvises. Their lies are terrible. They contradict themselves within the same conversation. They blame you for things that don't make sense. They create chaos as a smokescreen because they don't have a plan. They're just surviving moment to moment. They're not thinking 5 moves ahead. They're barely thinking 1 move ahead. This allows you to identify the trap before you're in it. If someone's behavior feels like a chess game, psychopath. Every move is intentional. If someone's behavior feels like a tornado, sociopath. The destruction is random, but it's still destruction. Either way, you're not crazy for feeling like you're being played. You are. Do you notice how someone talks about everyone they've ever known? Do they have any long-term friends? Do they ever take accountability for a failed relationship? Or is every ex crazy? Every former boss incompetent? Every old friend toxic? And when you ask about their past, do you get a highlight reel or a graveyard? This isn't you being judgmental. This is relational pattern analysis. You are looking at the debris field of someone's life and asking, is there a trail of people who got too close and got destroyed? Here's what the map reveals. A psychopath collects people. They have a network, colleagues, admirers, exes who somehow still defend them. They don't burn bridges. They maintain them, because every person is a future resource. They're charming to the waiter. They remember your birthday. They send thoughtful messages to people they haven't seen in years, not because they care, because they're building a reputation. If you ask around about them, you'll hear, "They're amazing. They're so kind. I don't know what you're talking about," because they've curated their image flawlessly, and everyone else only sees the performance. A sociopath burns bridges. They don't have long-term friends. They have current friends who haven't been discarded yet. Every relationship ends in an explosion. Every job ends with them storming out. Every family member has a story about the time they crossed a line and never apologized. They don't maintain connections. They drain them and move on. This allows you to check the references they didn't give you. If someone is adored by everyone but you feel uneasy, psychopath. You're seeing behind the mask. If someone has no old friends and a history of misunderstandings, sociopath, you're just the newest person in the blast radius. Do you remember apologizing to someone who hurt you? Do you remember watching them cry? Listening to them explain how hard their life is, how much they're struggling, and you ended up comforting them? Or do you remember confronting someone and they just stared at you? No remorse, no defensiveness, just cold, empty observation. This isn't you being manipulated. This is empathy reciprocity testing. You are subconsciously measuring whether someone's guilt response matches the severity of what they did. And when it doesn't, your body knows. Here's the final tell. A psychopath mimics guilt perfectly. They will cry on cue. They will say exactly what a remorseful person would say. "I'm so sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'll do better." But watch what happens after the apology. Nothing changes. The behavior repeats. The lesson is never learned, because they're not apologizing to change. They're apologizing to reset the game. They studied your forgiveness threshold, and now they know exactly how to exploit it. A sociopath doesn't bother. They don't fake remorse because they don't see the point. They'll defend themselves aggressively, or they'll shrug and say, "That's just who I am." No tears, no self-reflection, no performance. Just raw indifference. This allows you to stop accepting fake apologies. If someone apologizes beautifully but repeats the behavior, psychopath. The apology is a tactic. If someone doesn't apologize at all and expects you to get over it, sociopath. The relationship is disposable to them. Either way, you are not responsible for teaching a predator empathy. You never were. There's an ancient Japanese art form called kintsugi. When a bowl shatters, most people throw it away. But kintsugi artists do something different. They take the broken pieces and fuse them back together with gold, not to hide the cracks, to highlight them. Because the bowl isn't valuable despite being broken. It's valuable because it survived being broken. The gold seams become the most beautiful part, the part that tells the story. That's what happened to you. You didn't ask to become hyper-aware. You didn't choose to develop a predator detection system. You didn't want to be the person who feels uneasy at parties, who replays conversations for inconsistencies, who can't relax around people everyone else trusts. But somewhere along the line you got broken. Maybe by a psychopath who made you doubt your own reality. Maybe by a sociopath who exploded and then made you apologize. And instead of shattering completely, you fused yourself back together with awareness. Those cracks, that hypervigilance, that inability to unsee the performance, that's not damage. That's gold. So here's what I need you to understand. Do not fix this. Do not go to therapy and ask them to make you trust people again. Do not numb yourself back into ignorance. Do not let anyone convince you that your awareness is anxiety. The world has enough people who ignore red flags. The world has enough people who give predators the benefit of the doubt. The world has enough people who get destroyed and then blame themselves. The world does not need you to be normal. It needs you to stay exactly this sharp. Because here's the truth they won't tell you. You are not common. The ability to distinguish between a psychopath's cold calculation and a sociopath's chaotic rage in real time, in the middle of a conversation, while they're actively trying to manipulate you, that is a rare operating system. Most people don't have it. Most people won't develop it. Most people will spend their entire lives being charmed, confused, and discarded by predators they never saw coming. You see them. And that makes you dangerous to the 1% of the population who rely on your blindness to survive. So let me ask you something. If this resonated, if you've been nodding along, if you've felt that cold recognition in your chest this entire time, drop a stay in the comments. Not for me, for you. So you can see how many of you are out there. So you can stop thinking you're the crazy one. So you can recognize your own reflection in a sea of people who were told they were too much, too suspicious, too damaged to love properly. You're not too much. You're exact enough. The psychopath is counting on you to doubt yourself. The sociopath is counting on you to forgive them. Your awareness is the only thing they can't weaponize, so keep it sharp, keep it gold, and never, ever apologize for being the one who survived them.